Hey folks, Rob Anderson here. Hope everybody's doing well. So I'm here today to announce that we are going to start showing some new fly tying videos. We're going to show you how to tie all of our patterns at Pyramid Lake, some of our patterns for international travel, and also highlight our peacock bass flies. Today, I'm going to start off showing everybody maybe the most popular fly pattern of all time at Pyramid Lake. The fly was invented in the late 1970s by a gentleman named Ike Berry. Unfortunately, Ike's not with us anymore. Rest in peace. But Ike was one of the original old timers from Pyramid Lake, standing out in the lake in freezing cold water before the idea of standing on a ladder and coming up with ideas for fly patterns for lahont and cutthroat trout for the last 50 years. Pyramid Lake beetle was and still is a very important part of fishing at Pyramid Lake. The fly has evolved a lot over the last 40 or 50 years. So I'm going to show you our version of it now, how we tie it, why we tie it the way we do, the materials we use, and hopefully give you an opportunity to tie some of these flies on your own. If you're not a fly tyer, we have all of these patterns on our online store that are available to you at really reasonable rates, and we ship out usually same day. So we hope you enjoy our fly tying videos that we have coming up. Today we're going to show you how to tie the Pyramid Lake beetle from start to finish. The Pyramid Lake beetle comes in many shapes and sizes. This is probably the one we sell the most of and that we use in our guide trips at the lake. It's a version that comes with a long marabou tail. This one has white foam on top and chenille and a hook and thread. It's a really simple pattern to tie. The materials we use for this fly are 2mm foam. It's a product called Loco foam that gives the fly a natural sheen on top. The marabou tail is important because it really turns this fly into more of a minnow type pattern. And I think that's why the fish are keying in on it. So the materials for this fly, we start off with the hook. We use a size 6 Tiemco 2457 to double strong hook, curved nymph style, and works really well with this fly. The tail is just a cheap strung marabou. The body is UV Estaz chenille. We use a really strong flat wax nylon thread. And the last ingredient is Loco foam, which has a shiny side to it, a sheen that's very common in beetles, water beetles. And it also gives this fly some pop in deeper water where the water's dark so the fish can see it. This fly is really simple to tie. The only prep work that you have to do, the Loco foam comes in a sheet, and what I do is I mark it so that I can cut it into strips. The perfect width for a strip of foam for this fly is exactly 1 centimeter. So I cut it into a strip like this for use. The marabou, hooks, thread, everything else is ready to go. And this is a fly you should be able to tie in a couple minutes. Okay, so to start, we're going to use a Tiemco 2457 size 6 hook. I'm going to crimp down the bar before I start to make sure that I don't break off the point of the hook before I do all the work. Get that in my vise. And then I'm going to take some white flat wax nylon thread, strong thread so it doesn't break. And I'm going to tie it just on the hook about halfway back, just to get the thread on the hook. Then I'm going to take some strung marabou. Doesn't have to be expensive stuff. This is just a run-of-the-mill strung marabou, inexpensive to use and perfect for this fly. And I don't want to use a ton of material. I want the tail to be semi-sparse so that it moves around better in the water. So I'm only going to use maybe 20 strands of marabou is plenty. And then I want the tail to be about the same length as the hook to make it twice as long. So I'm going to measure first the length that I want the marabou, which I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm going to pinch it off where I want to cut it. I'm going to wrap it on the hook, leaving a bunch of bare hook at the front so that I don't bulk up the material around the eye of the hook so that you can get your leader through the eye later. And I'm going to wrap back. I want the marabou tail to end up coming out straight like this. If you wrap too far back on the hook, the marabou tail is going to point down, and we don't want that. So I'm going to stop there, about halfway back the hook, just a little bit past where the barb used to be. Then I'm going to take my foam, and I'm actually going to cut a little bit off the back of the foam just to create a smaller area to tie it in and a little bit of taper in the very back. I'm going to tie it in with the dull side up, facing the rear of the fly. Once that's in place, I'm going to take my Chartreuse UV Estaz. This is the large size. This does have a direction. This happens to be going to my left. So I'm going to come down to the end of the chenille, the base of it, where it's facing away from where I'm tying it in. Get a good base. Bring my thread up to where I stopped before, leaving plenty of room by the eye of the hook. And then I'm going to wrap this chenille around, starting in the very back, going forward. It does not have to be completely tight up against itself, because I'm going to stop right there where I left the bare hook, and I'm going to retrace my steps going backwards towards the back of the hook one time, and then I'm going to bring the chenille back forward. So I tied it forward and then back and then forward again. The reason I do this is it creates a bigger chenille base around the hook, and it allows the foam to sit better on top of the hook without turning over sideways. So I've done that. I'm going to cut off the chenille. I'm going to tie it down. And I'm going to get a little bit wet on my fingers and hold the chenille back away from the eye of the hook and try to tie it down so that I really expose that eye without any material in it at all. Once I've done that, I'm going to fold the foam over the top. Now the shiny side of the foam is facing up. I'm going to take and do one loose wrap with my thread. I'm going to hold the foam in place where I want it to be, do a couple more wraps, and before I finish it off, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to form the front of the foam with a little bit of curve in it. Once that's done, now I can cinch down harder on my thread. A couple more wraps is all I need. Once I get the thread nice and secure on the fly, I take my whip finisher and finish it off. Is how we tie our version at Pyramid Lake Fly Fishing of the Pyramid Lake Beetle, or commonly referred to with the tail as a tadpole. So thanks, folks, for tuning in to see how we tie our version of the Pyramid Lake Beetle / tadpole. You can see how easy this fly is to tie. If you're not a fly tyer or don't have time, we sell this fly in many different colors on our online store, as well as all the other popular Pyramid Lake flies dating back to the 1970s and the new ones that we are inventing and creating every year for the lake. So we hope to see you with our next video, where we will show you how to tie the Pyramid Lake woolly bugger.